Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our next matchup for UFC Qatar. In this one, heavyweights go after it as Serghei Spivac takes on Shamil Gaziev, aka the GOAT. I figure I at least say that once, but to be honest, I never understood the joke with Shamil Gaziev being the GOAT, but whatever. In this one, you have Spivac, who is known for his durability, grit, and grapple heavy game, while he takes on Shamil Gaziev, who is a dangerous striker with really, really good power and an aggressive forward moving style. This one's interesting for me because you do got two fighters with very different approaches to the fight. You essentially have will Spivac's control and grappling be enough to deal with Gaziev's heavy hands, or will Gaziev's pressure and knockout power make him too dangerous to handle? Well, another what do I want to say with this? Besides, the whole joke of Shamil Gaziev, being the GOAT and whatnot, I actually do find it interesting. He's, taking on, Serghei Spivac, because in some ways, Serghei Spivac is the best blob of all the heavyweights, the true king of the blobs. And if you can get past Serghei Spivac, you're usually considered a top 8, top 7 fighter, and it's shown, right? You saw in his last 2 losses, he lost to Gelton Almeida, who's a top 5 fighter, and then in his most recent loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's top 6. And plus, his only other loss is to Serghei, who is number 2 in the world for me in terms of heavyweights. At least, or I take it back, UFC heavyweights, Serghei is still number 2. And it takes on Shamil Gaziev, who is 3-1 in the promotion. He made his debut defeating Martin Buday, which has aged very well. And, Buday may be boring, but he should not have been cut. I understand that. But so good win for Gaziev, all things considered, as Buday that's Buday's only loss in the UFC. Lost his second fight in a main event fight to Jair Rosenstrike, where he got picked apart later as the fight went on, and eventually just wasn't able to continue. But since then, has bounced back with 2 wins, decision win over Dontel Mays, where he just out-wrestled him for 3 rounds, and then knocked out Thomas Peterson once he found the opening, just landed home with the right hand, with the right hook. So it'll be interesting. Although it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I gotta stop saying that word so much. But one thing that does have my intrigue is that while Serghei Spivac is the UFC veteran here, he's been in the promotion for a while now. And you could more or less say Gaziev is the prospect. He's 35. So while Spivac is still only 30. So I guess that's something to take in mind for me. But without further ado, let's break down their styles. For Serghei Spivac, this guy is a grinder. He is built for the long haul and excels when he can take the fight to the ground. Spivac's a strong wrestler, and his top control is solid. And when he gets his hands on you, he works for takedowns, control positions, and locks you down with ground and pound. Now, I would say Spivac's wrestling is not, he's not going to shoot a lot of double legs or single legs. He will, and that is some of his wrestling game. But most of his wrestling actually comes from the clinch. Very, very good clinch, especially on the cage, where he can land dirty boxing. And his main takedowns are his trips and throws. He's got very good foot sweeps, hip tosses, shoulder roll? Or sorry, not shoulder rolls. Basically, the well-rounded judo and sambo game is really where his takedowns come in. As I said, he's got really good foot sweeps, good trips, and good hip tosses. Especially like you saw in the Greg Hardy fight, where Spivac is a master of getting the underhooks, and if he's able to get both underhooks on his opponent, then he's just gonna ring him out like fucking towels. He'll just throw him every which way he wants. His striking isn't the most technical, but is it effective enough to set up his grappling? And he's shown improvement to take on Waldo, who at least has a boxing background. And Spivac doesn't mind getting in the mud and making things ugly. He'll take a few shots if it means getting close enough to start working his clinch or take the fight to the floor. And once he is able to get to his fights to the ground, his top pressure is extremely good. He's got thudding ground and pound. You saw in that 3-fight win streak he went on with Greg Hardy, Augustus Sakai, in Derek Lewis, where with the Sakai fight, he just hit him in the face for until the ref stopped it. He's also got some good submissions to it as well. I'd say his best submission is the arm triangle. That's the one he choked out Tai Tuivasa, the one he submitted Derek Lewis with. He's got some other submissions to his game too. In his most recent win to Marcin Tybura, which was a rematch, Spivac was actually able to get an armbar from bottom, which, is not the craziest thing to hear, but at heavyweight, yeah, that is kind of crazy, as you really do not see many heavyweights get arm bars from bottom. The only heavyweights I know who could pull that off if they were in their prime would be like Frank Mir or Minotauro. Name a few. Defensively, Spivac is tough. He can take a shot and keep moving forward, but his biggest strength lies in his ability to make the fight uncomfortable for his opponents by closing distance and getting on the fight to the ground. If he could stay on top of you, he's dangerous with relentless pressure. Only problem is his footwork. There are at times Serghei looks stuck in the mud, or he's got like 2 left feet. He's not very good with his balance at times, and that is where his striking does suffer. And you saw it with like Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida was actually able to really hurt him with his striking, which, considering the last fight Almeida had, you'd be shocked. But also in that fight, though, you saw Spivac was able to hold his own on the ground for good portions of that fight, actually able to reverse position. He took Almeida down at the start of the fight and was even able to reverse Almeida when Almeida had his back. So Serghei Spivac is no slouch on the ground. He is one of the better grapplers in this division, and it has paid dividends for him. Now, looking at Shamil Gaziev, this guy is all about pressure and knockout power. Gaziev's striking is aggressive, and he's looking to land heavy shots every time he steps in the cage. His kicks, particularly his low kicks and calf kicks, he sets up his heavy punches, and his hands are his biggest weapon. I say what stands out for Gaziev is his ability to close distance quickly and land brutal shots. He's not a guy who waits around. Once he's in range, he throws bombs. His knockout power is real. You saw it with Thomas Peterson, who granted, got knocked out bad by Vitor Petrino. But still, Gaziev was able to knock him out in the first round, and it took Petrino till the 3rd round to do that. So I think it's now, MMA math is often bullshit, but it kind of, if we're testing the scale of power, Gaziev's got real power. Plus, he was able to TKO Martin Buday, who is, pretty durable, well, I would say. And Gaziev's shown that he can hurt opponents with just about any fight. But beyond raw power, Gaziev is smart. He's calculated in how he positions himself to land those strikes. And he does have, while he's a striker at heart, Gaziev isn't a stranger to the clinch, and he has decent takedown defense. He's not a fighter who wants to be on the ground, but he's not afraid to stand his ground and defend takedowns or use wrestling himself. That's how he beat Dontel Mays. That's how he was winning the first round of his fight with Rosenstrike, using his wrestling. So Gaziev is well-rounded, but primarily a striker. Now, when these two meet, you've got an interesting dynamic. You got Spivac, who wants to drag this fight into the later rounds, where his cardio and pressure and grappling will take over. And he's going to want to close the distance, use his clinch game, and work for takedowns. And if Spivac can get Gaziev to the ground, he'll have the advantage, I believe, in terms of control, because his jiu-jitsu is really good. But for a lot of his problems is on the feet, I have no problems with him on the ground. Spivac is one of the better grapplers in this division. Now, heavyweight, not saying much. But again, if you're able to reverse positions with Jailton Almeida, it at least shows you've got pretty good grappling. And he's not, while Spivac is a finisher as well, actually most of his wins have come via finish. He rarely wins a decision. And he's shown, because once he's able to get that top pressure on, and like I said, get like his double underhooks, he's able to then get at his ground and pound working. He's able to slide in and out, look for submissions, or just continue just hammering his opponents until the ref pulls him off. He's looking for a dominant, grinding performance where he can slowly wear his opponents down. On the other hand, Gaziev is going to want to keep this fight standing and at range. His striking, especially his knockout power, is his biggest weapon. Gaziev thrives when he can keep opponents at the end of his punches, and he'll be looking for an opportunity to land a big shot that could end the fight quickly. Spivac can take a shot, but Gaziev's power is real. And, you look at some of Spivac's losses, right? TKO to Cyril Gane, not TKO to Jailton Almeida. And most of his losses have come via knockout, like to Tom Aspinall. Excuse me. But again, it is heavyweight weight, and one mistake, it can end the night early. The big question is whether Spivac can get past Gaziev's striking and close the distance to implement his game plan. And if Gaziev can keep the fight standing and defend takedowns, he could very well catch Spivac with something big. But if Spivac can hold his own and control the clinch and take down Gaziev, then that power becomes less of a factor when you're on your back. So for my official prediction, I got to go with Shamil Gaziev. The biggest factor I have is I think he's simply going to be too big and too knowledgeable in the clinch to get controlled. Spivac has, controlled much bigger guys than him. In fact, Spivac's on the lighter side of heavyweight. He mostly weighs in at the 130s to 140 range. He's not that big in terms of heavyweight, but he's able to control his much bigger opposition, like, say, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, or Greg Hardy. These guys are much bigger than him. But Spivac's control of the clinch, his technique when it comes to his trips, throws, and whatnot, that's usually what has garnered him his ability to win fights. It's just being the technically superior clinch fighter and superior grappler. And oftentimes he's very good at riding his opponents and very good at chain wrestling, so that once his opponents, say, do get up, he can immediately just put them back down with like a knee tap or something, or a foot sweep. I guess the best example is like when he fought Derek Lewis, where he took, or sorry, I take it back, Greg Hardy, right? He takes Greg Hardy down, Hardy stands up, and then Spivac, who still has a tight waist around him, uses a hip toss and puts Hardy back down on the ground. But the thing is, Shamil Gaziev has much better grappling than those last three fighters I mentioned. Plus, he's as big as those guys. So I think that's going to be a real problem for Spivac. And now I do see a world where Spivac can take it down, because Thomas Peterson was able to take down Shamil Gaziev by shooting in a nice time double leg. And I could see Spivac doing that as well. But he's not that type of wrestler oftentimes than not. He can shoot for a double or single, but oftentimes, like I said, his takedowns come from the clinch with his throws. And I just think Gaziev is going to be too knowledgeable with those positions, too big for those positions. And I just think while they're in close, he's going to have the power to make Serghei Spivac pay. So my official prediction, I'm going to go with Shamil Gaziev, and I'm going to pick him via knockout in this one. But with that being said, that's been my prediction of this fight. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. Stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see you all next time.